How did we get here? Brittany and I are sitting on the marriage counselor's couch. There is a lot of animosity. There's a lot of anger. I think back, we were so happy. We had been married for 13 years. We went to medical school together. We have 2 kids. And now we sit here making the decision to end our marriage.
Then we were divorced. And not only did we have to co-parent together, as a trauma surgeon and an emergency medicine doctor, we had to work together. I remember one night in particular in West Texas, it was really cold outside. The doors to the trauma bay flew open. A patient was wheeled in on a gurney. Monitors were strapped to his chest, and I looked up and I watched his heart rate fall further and further and further and further down towards death. The room was chaotic. Nobody was communicating. Everybody was talking over one another. And I looked across the room at Brian, and I knew, and he knew, that if we did not start to communicate better as a team, that we were going to lose this patient. So we did. And that patient lived. And what if you could take those same communication skills that we used in the hospital and you could apply them towards everyday life?
2.5 years went by. I often thought back on our marriage, and I was trying to figure out what went wrong. I knew that we were really young when we got married, and I could tell as I looked back and replayed conversations that our communication was not good. So I spent that 2.5 years trying to improve myself. I tried to find out who I was. I worked on myself, found the hobbies that I enjoyed, and I was looking for the person that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with. Brittany and I continued to co-parent and raise our kids. And one day, we were watching them swim at the community pool. Brittany and I were talking, and all of a sudden, I looked up, and I locked eyes with her and realized, you are the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with.
Over those 2.5 years, we had been co-parenting, and I was truly working on myself. I looked back on our first marriage. We were so young, and not only were we young, I didn't know who I was. So how could I have chosen a mate to live my life with? As I grew on my own, I realized what traits it was that I was looking for in a partner, because now I was whole. And unbeknownst to me, he had been doing the same thing. So as we sat there that day at the pool, I also looked over and realized, wow, he looks really good in a bathing suit, actually. But also, I think you have those traits that I'm looking for, and I want to spend my life with you. 1 year later, we're in the south of France. We're both dressed in white. The sky is a light blue. The sea is a deep blue. Our daughter is wearing the same tiara that I wore at our first wedding. Our son is shuffling through the vows as our kids remarry us. How did we get here? What happened? What changed? We realized that you could apply those same communication strategies that we use in the hospital. You could combine them with becoming whole individuals and growing up, and something really great could happen.
So where do we start? Let's go back to that cold night in the trauma bay. We could have done something differently, because we always know what's about to come in. EMS always lets us know what they are bringing. And that night, they had told us that this patient had been going 100 miles an hour, wasn't wearing a seatbelt, had multiple broken bones, and they suspected major internal bleeding. So we gather the team around, and we tell them what we know, and then we assign roles. You're going to get blood in the room right now. You're going to make sure this patient continues to breathe. And you're going to go get all the medications we need to save this patient's life.
But how do you apply that towards real life? Let's take the extended family gathering. My husband recently thought it was going to be a great idea to invite our entire extended family for Thanksgiving on a day that I was post-call, meaning I had not slept all night long. So we did the same things. What do we know? Well, we know Mom is going to be a zombie because she won't have slept the night before. We know Dad loves to be the center of attention and makes pretty good mashed potatoes. And kids, we know, are going to be on chocolate overdose toxicity watch because grandparents will be in town. And then we assigned roles. Mom, you might be a zombie, but you could pick up catering on the way home from work. Dad, you make those mashed potatoes and you run interference between the people who don't like each other. And kids, you guys stay outside. Now, no matter how much you try to set up those chaotic scenarios, inevitably chaos still ensues. And the same thing happens in the hospital. One of the best tools of communication we have in those scenarios is called closed loop communication. And it looks very simply like this. I turn to the nurse and say, I need you to give 2 units of packed red blood cells stat. The nurse turns, looks me in the eye and says, Dr. Bankhead, I'm going to give 2 units of blood now.
The other day, Brittany and I were in a fight, or what we like to tell the kids is a discussion. I can't even tell you what this fight was about because I was so angry. And Brittany could tell that she was no longer getting through to me with how angry I was, and so she used closed loop communication on me, and she said, what do you hear me telling you? And I said, I hear you telling me that I'm a bad dad and that I'm a horrible husband. She looked at me and she said, that's not at all what I am telling you. And she was able to use that moment then to cut through that chaos and tell me what she was really saying, and we were able to get through that discussion fairly quickly. Now, other chaos mitigating strategies come from when I was a first-year resident. I was getting ready to go into my first patient in cardiac arrest and take care of them. I was extremely nervous, and before my attending let me go into the room, he made me take 2 fingers, put them on my wrist, and feel my own pulse. I then walked into that room feeling calm and confident, and I was able to make sure that we got the outcome we wanted in that situation.
Recently, we moved from a low cost of living area to a high cost of living area. And as anyone who has done that knows, it can bring some of those same feelings of internal nervousness and strife. So we applied the same principles. First, we took our own pulse. We are healthy. Our kids are healthy. We have good jobs, and it's going to be okay. And then we did a recap. What had we been spending on that maybe we could change around, and what could we do together as a family moving forward to hit our financial goals? Now, after the chaos is over, you might think that this is the time that you can stop communicating and you're done. But you would be wrong. This is actually one of the most important times it is to communicate effectively so you can set up next time better. We do this in either the form of a structured debrief or an unstructured debrief. A structured debrief would be me standing at the edge of the bed after the patient has left and saying, all right, team, what do we think we did well today, and what do we think we could do better next time?
A structured debrief in our house looks like rose, bud, thorn. We pick a time when we're all together, usually at the dinner table, and we go around asking every person, what was your rose? What was the best thing that happened to you today? What is your bud? What's something that you're looking forward to? And what is your thorn? What's something that was bad that happened today or that you're not looking forward to? It was because of us having this structured debrief set up that one night, one of our children felt comfortable enough to tell us their thorn. They had been bullied on the bus. We were able to use that moment to give them strategies and support them through that moment to make sure that it never happened again. Now, if you've ever been in the hospital, you've probably witnessed an unstructured debrief. It often looks like doctors or nurses walking the halls, maybe carrying a cup of coffee, and they're having discussions, usually about different patient scenarios.
My friend Marky is a news anchor in Chicago, and she taught us about the beauty of a coffee walk. It is very simply 2 things, a warm cup of something and a walk outside. Our lowest lows, our highest highs, and our biggest dreams have been dreamt on these coffee walks together and have become the staple of M2 for us. So, no matter where you find yourself in life and whatever chaotic scenario you run into, whether it's at your job, maybe with a co-parent, or in a relationship,
before the chaos ever starts, try talking about what you know and assigning roles.
Use closed-loop communication if it's helpful, and take a pause, take your own pulse, and do a recap.
And then after the chaos is over, don't forget your debrief, whether that's a structured debrief like Rosebud Thorn or an unstructured debrief like our favorite, a coffee walk.
And even though we will never very easily be able to answer that question of, so how long have you two been married?
Oh, no.
What we do know is that these communication strategies and coffee walks have led to the most beautiful and fulfilling version of M2 that we could have ever hoped for.